Hi, this is Ms. Bahawk. Welcome to the Look Good, Move Well podcast, where you can get fresh ideas for your training, nutrition, and lifestyle to immediately put to use. Listen in with Marcus Philly, the creator of functional bodybuilding, and myself.
Hi, I'm Marcus Philly, and we're broadcasting from Revival Strength in San Rafael, California.
We'll be talking about avoiding burnout, keeping your passion alive for training, and fueling your body and mind so you can look good, move well now, and for years to come. What does Marcus, a 6-time games athlete, really miss about competing under the bright lights? And what lessons from that carry over to anyone who needs to change focus in their training, work, or life? If you're bummed out about the regionals changes or life has thrown you curveballs in other ways, listen in for some gems on how to take what inspires you and let it light your way.
Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to Season 3 of the Look Good, Move Well podcast, everyone.
Yeah, this is exciting.
Broadcasting from Revival Strength, San Rafael, California. Marcus Philly here.
Ms. Bahawk here as well.
Our resident stand-up comedian. Misbah, you want to tell everybody what you've been up to since Season 2?
Season 2. Wow, yeah. I think I've done a lot of stand-up.
Yeah.
I've bombed a lot. So gone to different open mics and tried out different stuff. Things that worked, haven't worked. Got to headline this weekend at a show, which was really fun. And I have 14 minutes total in 2 months, so that's exciting. And I want to get another 7 in the mix, so then 3 months, I've got at least 21 minutes. So that's kind of the journey right now.
By the time you guys hear this, Misbah will have all his material set for 21 minutes. You want to book him for a show, please contact Misbah at revival-strength.com.
Yes, I would love to hear from anybody.
I have personally been to see him, and he is fantastic for somebody who's relatively new to the game. You wouldn't know it. He hasn't bombed in front of me, so he's got that going for him. And let's see, what else? In Season 2, I put out a little announcement on social media, on Instagram. I made mention of the fact that we love coffee here. And what I received and what we have received at Revival Strength in response has been really overwhelming. I want to give a shout out to Temple Coffee Roasters. I believe they're up here in Northern California. Looks like they're out of Sacramento. I just got this care package from them. We got 3 pounds of their of a few different roasts that they do, and just such a kind gesture. So our address, we'll link it in the show notes, 1221 Anderson Drive, San Rafael, California, Suite F, 94901. We love coffee here. We love to sample what you guys have out there. Everyone believes they got the best coffee in the world to drink and the best brewing method. Yeah. And we'd love to, be your guinea pig. So please feel free to send us some coffee. So thanks, Temple Coffee, the unofficial sponsor of the Look Good, Move Well podcast for today.
If people send enough coffee, maybe we could do our own version of Hot Ones, but with coffee.
Oh my gosh. By the end, we'll be like buzzing like crazy.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, I think I'm excited because this is our 25th episode total.
Yeah.
Right? We've done 24.
My gosh.
And it's been cool to see the growth of it all and see how people are resonating with it. People were here for the FBB Athlete Experience, the first ever, a little bit ago. And, it was cool to hear just people from all over the world that are listening to it or have resonated with it in some way. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we'll keep that going. And if you have any topic suggestions, remember, hit up speakpipe.com/lookgoodmovewell.
Yeah, and we take a lot of input from you guys. I was out at the CrossFit Games this year for 3 days as a spectator, and I got to meet a lot of you listeners in person, Awaken Training Series participants, Revival Strength athletes, functional bodybuilding enthusiasts. Hearing you guys talk and hearing your feedback and hearing kind of what's happening for you out there in the real training world, whether you be competitive or you're just trying to look good, move well, or you're trying to run a facility, a gym, a CrossFit gym, or another type of training facility, hearing the obstacles that you run into and what is keeping you from having the best experience possible with your fitness is inspires us to create good content here, have great topics, and develop good training programs for you guys to learn from and to enhance your training experience. So please keep them coming. Any comments that you make on the YouTube channel, any reviews that you leave for us on iTunes, any of the messages that you leave you leave for us on SpeakPipe, they all get heard. You can always email us. There's plenty of ways to get in touch with us, but we love to hear from you. And even a shout out on social media, on Instagram, a direct message to either of us can inform sort of the next topic that you may hear on the show.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, this was a DM I think you received in your inbox, and it really revolved around, with all the different athletes that are all over Instagram posting their experience of competing and training, and with game season just kind of coming to a close. The question revolved around, do you ever feel, do you get that itch, right, after seeing all of that? What feelings does that kind of bring up for you in terms of wanting to get back into competition or not having that in your life right now?
Yeah, I wanted to make this a topic point today, not because I really want to talk about my own personal experience around that topic too much, but I'm always looking for a way to transform these questions into something that's really gonna be applicable to most listeners, or you guys can connect with the experience. What are some aspects of that question that apply to everybody that's maybe listening? And so I think I can start with just my own experience with it. The short answer is no. Going and watching the CrossFit Games did not give me the itch more so than any other time to get back on the competition floor. So that's the short answer. The long answer is more of what I wanted to talk about with this show in this episode, which is establishment of priorities in one's life in order to determine what the thing that they need to be focused on is. And that's really what gives me the personal itch and drive to do something. Yeah, there's a lot of sexy, shiny objects out there, and it's easy to get suckered into doing them, right? The CrossFit Games is a pretty sexy, shiny object, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even have to do CrossFit and turn on the TV and you look at it and you're like, man, that's pretty freaking cool. Look at these people with chiseled abs and they're doing crazy feats of human strength. And, when they get interviewed, they're typically good people. And it's like, wow, who doesn't want that? But those things are all over the internet. They're all over TV. And most of them are designed to get you, to pay attention and distract you potentially from what your core goals are. In a perfect world, you're able to see them see those shiny, sexy objects for what they are, and only take what applies to your own life, right? So there are aspects of watching the CrossFit Games that certainly apply to my own, journey that I'm on right now. Hard work, dedication, singular focus when a task is in front of you. That's what the CrossFit Games is, event by event. You watch men and women and teams go deep into the, tunnel of focus for, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, or 3.5 hours, and it's so impressive. And there's such inspiration I can take from that into my own life. So that's kind of the way I would like the conversation to go is, when I look at the CrossFit Games, or when you look at the CrossFit Games, or when our listeners look at the CrossFit Games, what are the characteristics of what they see that inspire them? And then, but is competing that thing? do they have to get out and compete to exhibit those behaviors or those characteristics that they admire in the athletes that they see, or to utilize or to strive for those characteristics to enhance whatever they're doing in their life. And I think that that's how most people are inspired by professional athletes in other sports. You know, basketball, baseball, football, track and field. Yet people don't typically see a basketball player's training routine and think, okay, gosh, I'm so inspired by LeBron James. I want to go do his training routine and do all the drills that he does in the gym, you know, and with the basketball. They just are inspired by his hard work, his dedication, his philanthropy, you know, the things that he stands for. That are just a reflection of him as a person, you know, and that's what I love watching in the CrossFit Games. And that's what at this stage in my life, I'm like, gosh, I can be more focused, singularly focused on tasks in front of me every day of my life, whether that's consulting with a client, whether that's, you know, recording a podcast, in my own training with my kids, or my daughter, my one kid. The second's on the way. I'm already talking like I got multiple kids. My wife, right? I can always strive for perfection, which CrossFit athletes are constantly doing. It is, you know, you're never good enough. You're never going to be the best that you can be. There's always something and someone better than you that you're striving to, right? Those are the things that I see that just get me excited. Yeah, I'll pause.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things that you mentioned, the characteristics, but also what stands out to me is maybe the alignment in the people that are there at the CrossFit Games or competing there, the alignment that they have in their own priorities, like the tunnel vision they have to even be there. Mm-hmm. That in and of itself is inspiring, because it's like they too, you know, probably have a bunch of shiny things that are in their vision all the time, and it takes a lot to be able to be like, well, this is my thing, this is what I'm going for, this is why I'm going for it, and you continue to put in the work behind the scenes most of the time. It's not usually, you know, on the world stage and super sexy like we see it. So that, to me, when I see that, sometimes I always take that into my own, you know, whatever I'm chasing at the moment, which is like, yeah, there's a lot that's going to be kind of coming your way, but getting clear on what's important to you is always at the forefront. And I'm realizing that more and more now with my own clients too. Mm-hmm. Like I presented a case study on the OPEX license call yesterday.
Yeah.
And that was like the overarching theme. So it's interesting to see how this topic, like you said, how it connects with other listeners. It can connect with somebody who is just doing this to look good, move well.
Yeah, completely. I mean, to your point, it's like that the CrossFit Games are, you know, the tip of the iceberg when you look at the work and the effort and the time commitment, the dedication, the singular focus, the sacrifices that are made in order to have something that is presentable and awesome to the viewer. You're experiencing it, like you said, with your clients, probably experiencing it with your stand-up. It's like, man, there's a lot of hours of just really boring writing and, you know, practicing material and bombing before you got 7 minutes in front of a crowd that gets laughs. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably where I have a lot of, you know, experience and a different perspective than many people that watch the CrossFit Games. I mean, there's not many people that get to watch the CrossFit Games having been there a number of times themselves. You know, the list is relatively short, and I feel really, you know, lucky to be part of that group. So when I sit down and watch it, you know, and someone asks me the question like, oh, don't you wish you were out there? And I'm like, you know, I wish I was out there only if I had put in the 9 to 10 months leading up to that moment where I did everything necessary to get there. And just the simple reality is that type of dedication to one singular focus in sport isn't my biggest priority in life right now. And that's not to say that I don't value it and I don't think it's admirable pursuit. But at 33, going on 34 here very soon, with, a family that I'm, working on building, and a business that I'm working on building, and having put in so many years of doing it, I know what that takes, and I also know what it doesn't leave room for. And I've just committed to some other things, right? Like talking, like this podcast, like being able to record these shows and talk with you each week. Like that's not something that just happens, by accident. There's a lot of moving parts that go into it. There's time dedicated. I'm not training right now, whereas the competitors that are trying to get to the games, they're training, or they're recovering, or they're focused on the next workout, or they're doing something that's, preparing them for the next, part of that journey to the CrossFit Games again. And that's just one small example, but it's an example that, highlights maybe 10 other examples that all together, it's like that's where I want to put my energy. And at the same time, I still look at these athletes, I get inspired. I think it's phenomenal what they do, I never look at them and think to myself, oh, I could do that. Oh, I could do that. I'd be crushing it right now. Like, people like to say that to any athlete. It's like, oh, you'd be great at this, Marcus. You'd be crushing it out there. I'm like, no, actually, no. I'm not really in that place right now. But thanks for your confidence. No, I look at it and I know what it takes, and I appreciate them for being, ambassadors of the sport and inspiring people. And my hope is that people get inspired the right way by that. Like, don't watch the CrossFit Games and then go back and train 10 more hours a week in the gym if that's not your purpose. If your purpose is to look good and move well, then watch what they do, see how well they move, see how precise they execute at such high intensity, listen to what we've talked about on this show and what we preach in our methods, and know that means going back to the gym and hammering the fundamentals for a year, 2 years, 3 years, right? Really focusing on simplicity, getting perfect at the simplest stuff, so that when it comes time to do the hard stuff, you have access to it. You can do it at higher efforts, right? And that's what I see. I see, when I see Brent Fikowski out there, like, fighting for a podium spot and doing amazing feats for a body that is shaped and built the way his is, I'm just like, oh my God, he did so much behind the scenes that nobody knows the full depth. I don't even know, but I have a pretty good idea that took a whole different type of focus and dedication than anybody is really, like, prepared to accept and acknowledge. And I want people to accept it, acknowledge it, and then go and practice it in their own way.
Yeah, I think that it's valuable to hear your perspective, because us looking from, those who haven't been there, looking from the outside, it is easier said than done, right? It's like, oh yeah, you're moving so well, you look like you're ready to attack any workout right now, you would do great. But it's also like, you being there, you have this 30,000 foot view of all the little parts that have gone into it that I don't know if it can ever be fully portrayed to people who haven't. It's like, there's documentaries, there's a lot of things that show the behind the scenes, but there's no real way to encapsulate, like, the grit of actually going through all of it.
Yeah, I know the documentaries that are out there are some of them are better than others in depicting what it looks like. I think the Fikowski one that is happening right now, and I don't think it's like still not complete, because it's like going to highlight the games experience too. I think it shows it, but until someone goes like Truman Show with like one of the athletes, like all day, every day, like watch the whole, thing, you're not going to get to see it. Mm-hmm. There's people probably listening that train at gyms with games athletes, and they have a pretty good idea, but even then, like, when the athlete leaves the gym, they're not seeing what's happening,
Right. Like my client, Barry, in Canada, he, Pat Vellner, goes to his gym, mm-hmm. and I remember after the games, we had our consult, and I was like, hey, like, how how's Pat Vellner? How are things going at the gym? And he was like, I was like, is there like a celebration going on or something like that? And he was like, nope. He came back and he's right back into chiropractic school and like putting in work for that. Like
Sure.
that's something that, I mean, I wasn't aware of until he told me. I don't know, maybe it is out there in kind of the media, but it's like, you think about that in of itself, that takes a lot of hard work to do that. And it's
Yeah.
like behind the scenes, thinking about like, oh, he just podiumed, and then the next day he's back at it with all this other stuff that's kind of going on.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to, it's admirable, but it's hard to put yourself in that place of like, oh, that's real. That's really kind of how it looks like.
Completely. Yeah. So, I mean, do I get the itch to compete after watching people? I mean, I won't say that like there isn't some nostalgia that kind of gets stirred up in me. Like, oh yeah, when I was like, when life was built around that, singular focus and purpose, there were some really great parts to it. There were some things that I can't necessarily replicate in my current life, and I miss some of those things. I guess I miss being, the first person to try a new workout that Dave Castro puts out there. You know what I mean? Like, because those athletes, like, okay, and we're doing handstand walkover parallettes. It's like, okay, well, next week everyone's going to be trying that at their gym, but this week, about 80 people are going to be trying it, and they're the people that are on that competition floor. Like, that was fun, and that was a good experience. But again, it's going back and just seeing the big picture of like what all goes into getting there. And let's say your goals are, body composition related, or, health focused, or even performance focused. Yeah, you might not be trying to make it to the CrossFit Games. Maybe you just want to, run a better race. You want to perform at your first, CrossFit or functional fitness competition. You want to drop 10 pounds. Like, if you take the level of dedication and focus that a games athlete takes into your relentless pursuit of losing 10 pounds of fat and gaining some muscle, like, you've got an amazing chance of making it happen. You know what I mean? Like, and you're going to get there so much faster, and on the way, you're going to be so much more satisfied with the results and the process that you went through. And that's hopefully what people get from it, and that's certainly what I got from it. I mean, I came back and I was like, okay, like, let's schedule those meetings with all the coaches. Let's get everybody like on the same page. Let's make sure that we're connected as a business, and let's start to march forward so that we can impact more people and reach more people, and really solidify that we're a business that stands for excellence in coaching, as well as a very unique perspective on training, and let's make sure everyone knows that. And like, what does that take? It takes like this relentless dedication. It takes waking up or thinking about it every day. It means sometimes the first thing I would think of when I wake up is work and the business, and the last thing I think about before I kind of check out for the day is like clients or the coaches at the gym. So yeah, taking that and letting an event like the CrossFit Games sort of like reignite that focus for me. And I think that other people can learn from that too.
Yeah. I think there's two steps to what you kind of just outlined. It was like, okay, one is developing the awareness to be able to pick some of that apart. So like, watch it, consume it, like whether it's the experience of being at the games or watching it, and then taking away parts that kind of stand out to you and then applying it. So for you, it was like you're channeling it. You're channeling the same energy, but it's just in a different medium, right? It's like a medium, which is, the business, the coaches, the relationships, all that stuff. But that's the higher priority for you, and it's learning how to like take that from here and then put it over here.
Yeah. And I hope that maybe I'm shedding some light on it, that people can say, okay, that that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe I'll leave everybody with one last example, and that is like the example of like the up and down journey that is any pursuit of perfection or any pursuit of a goal. The weekend starts, everybody's on a level playing field, and then throughout the weekend at the CrossFit Games, people are jockeying for position. There's high placements, there's low placements, there's stuff all that are happening all over, and if you look at like Pat Vellner, we already used as an example. I mean, I think he finished in the 30s in the first event, and he ended on the podium in second place. So it's like he had this like kind of rocky beginning, but what did he rely on, and what did he like stay focused on? It was like, trust in himself, confidence in his ability, overcoming adversity. Like, okay, those are things that happen to all of us. They're happening to me all the time. It's like Tuesday I get rocked with some like challenging relationship issues, or some administrative or organizational skills that I don't have yet, and it's like, I gotta overcome this if we're going to be successful. And that's a weekly pursuit, or weekly path that I navigate, and I'm sure others do. And that's going to happen in your fitness progressions. It's going to happen in, your nutrition approach, etc. My mother-in-law talked to me yesterday about her, like, she's having all this progress in physical therapy after a hip replacement. And then yesterday it was like this really frustrating physical therapy session where she had this major, what seemed like a big setback, and she regressed. She was like, it's so frustrating. It's like, yeah, but it's she's got to keep her eye on the end goal and not let that derail her determination, her focus.
Totally. Yeah, I don't know. This just keeps kind of ringing for me how just encouraging to keep digging deeper and learning where things kind of come from. Because it's like, if having that, like, that mindset, that question that we got asked, which was like, hey, do you get that itch? Let's say you did get that itch, like, all the time.
Yeah.
But you were doing what you're doing now. It's like, that would be like I'm sure that takes away some enjoyment in what you're doing, and it takes away some of the effectiveness in it all too. And that's how I feel about, like, some of the clients, like a client today I got to talk to, like, just questioning for her, like, how she was enjoying the process of the day-to-day training, and uncovering that she felt a pressure that she had kind of imposed on herself to, week by week, push her weights. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and we kind of, from the case study yesterday, I like decided to play it out and be like, okay, well, where did that kind of come from? And we was like, okay, trainers or other gyms she's been to in the past, it's always like, oh, you can do 10 more pounds. You can do 10 more pounds.
Yeah.
It's like, just because you can do 10 more pounds doesn't mean you need to do that.
Right.
And for her, it was uncovering, like, look, your bigger picture was you being able to keep up with your kids, you being able to devote energy to the business. She's a part of a pretty big business that was, at the games, and a lot of energy goes into these things. And it was like, if you're putting it over here, you have less for over here,
Totally.
and there was something liberating, I think, about that, for her to, like, realize, oh, like, you're not judging me for the results, I'm like, because my weights are staying the same for 3 weeks in a row or something. It's like, no, that's not, yeah, that'd be great for somebody who's competing, or I don't know, like somebody who that was their focus, but your focus is here and here.
Yeah.
So that was just an interesting look at how, for an everyday person, in this case somebody who's a mom and a business owner, like, learning how to decode where your existing, like, energy and expectations are, so you can channel them better.
Yeah, completely. That's such a great carryover for, a practical application of this topic. And I hope people can listen to this episode and also hear that too, and just know that this is sort of applicable to everybody, and that it's a simple question to say, don't you get the itch to do something extreme? And yeah, I do, but it's not that thing that I'm watching. It's actually something else that I've determined is really important to me and gives me fulfillment and helps support, the life that I want to lead.
Awesome. Well, I think this was super insightful.
Yeah, it's a great
people
way to
have-
kick off season 3.
Yeah. If people have questions, follow-up questions on this, we would love to hear it at speakpipe.com/look good, move well.
All right, guys. See you next time.
Thank you.